Peace and blessings, peace and blessings. This is Sister Amuna at Enduring in the South. All praises be to Yahuwah and thanks be to our Adon Yahusha. So I'm going to go ahead and get into today's message. And today's reading is coming from John chapter 15. And it reads, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye, except ye abide in me. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that ye may bear much fruit, so shall ye be my disciples. So all praises be to the Most High Yahuwah for that reading. And I'm just going to go into the reason for this topic of discussion. As you see, I have my bell pepper plant in front of me. This bell pepper plant, and I'll just go into further saying the roots of this bell pepper plant is a year old. I've had this bell pepper plant since last summer, and it lasted until this spring. Yeah, I've had it since last spring and it lasted until this spring. So this plant is a year old. So let me give a testimony on this plant. On last winter here in the South, we had a freeze and I was very last minute with preparing for the necessary things that I needed to keep my plant from dying. But what I did do is I grabbed a black trash bag and I put it over the leaves. And I had it on it for probably a few days to a week, something like that. And as soon as it warmed up a little bit, I took it off. So mind you, in the midst of this, um, I was watering it, giving it egg water. As soon as it became warm, I took it off, and then it ended up getting cold again, and we had another freeze. So with the other freeze that we had, um, it literally my plant froze. So all of the leaves were dead and withered and just soggy. And it seemed as if it died because this part that you see right here, it was a lot longer. This plant was very tall. It was a lot longer. So if you see this part right here, it was longer and it was dead. So I let it stay to the long length that it was for a while before I cut it. So mind you, in the midst of the winter time, I was thinking maybe I should just pull it up because I'm like, ugh, it's just sitting out there, the representation of it. I'm like, maybe I should just pull it up and just, as scripture says, cast it into the fire. But then I'm like, no, you know what? I'm going to keep this plant. I'm going to keep the part that's still intact. I didn't touch it. Mostly I didn't touch it because really in the wintertime I'm in my own little hibernation mode. So I was inside most of the time. I did come out, but I just let it be. Now to go furthermore in to the backstory of this plant, I've had this plant since the last home that I did the testimony on of how Yahuwah delivered us out of that home. Now, mind you, because we were moving, I didn't know where exactly Yahuwah was going to plant us in. So I left the plant behind. But I had to go back and forth to the old house to get mail. So one day when I went to go get mail, I looked in the backyard, the plant was still there. And I'm like, oh, it's flourishing. It's still bearing fruit. It had so many peppers on it. Um, this container also had green peppers in it. So I think that's what this plant is right here. Hopefully, I'm not sure, but 9 times out of 10, all of it could be bell peppers. But I know for sure, I believe I had some sweet peppers, banana peppers in here. So when I looked in the backyard, I saw that my plant was flourishing and it was doing so well. And I'm like, you know what? I am not going to leave my plant. So I got my plant because I realized I did have enough space where we lived at to have it in my garden. And sorry for the noise, family. So I did get my plant. I brought it to my new home that we were at recently before we moved to this home. And my plant was bearing fruit. It was still bearing fruit all the way into the wintertime, all the way into that freeze that I just told y'all about. So going back to the freeze, I could have pulled my plant up. Um, it was provoking for me to pull it up because I didn't see it bearing fruit, but I didn't. I kept it in the pot and I decided to keep my plant. So as you see right here again, this is the part that was dead. It was longer than this. It was just like a long branch, dried, not bearing any fruit. So I kept it in there all the way until recently. And look what I have here. When the plant began to get its new growth back, it started to grow through this old branch here. The branch is literally the vine, the new vine, the new plant is literally still attached to this old stick here. It's still attached to it. Matter of fact, this one, if you can see it, actually started growing through the old branch. So I said that to say that just because something looks dead, that doesn't mean that it is. Just because your spiritual life and your growth seem like it's dead, it seems like you're not bearing fruit, you're not growing, you're not changing. That does not mean that you aren't. As humans, we go off of feelings all the time and we don't realize that what's deeply rooted in us will sprout and spring forth in due season. So throughout my life, that is something that I've learned, and I've had many of times throughout my spiritual life with me being in the truth, a feeling as if, yes, of just one. Go ahead. A feeling as if that I wasn't growing spiritually. I've had many of times that I felt as if my life wasn't fruitful, just for the Most High to come back around and to show me that I am growing and I am fruitful and I am rooted in Yahuwah and in Yahusha. So this is just a testimony of our lives. As scripture says, we are trees planted by the rivers of water. This bell pepper tree or plant has been rooted. It was so deeply rooted that all of the roots couldn't die. They couldn't freeze throughout the wintertime. The roots still had life within it. So just to give a parallel within scripture in John 15, it says, I am the true vine. So this vine right here was the true vine connected. This was the true vine. This was the first vine. And it died and grew a new vine because it was rooted and planted and it learned endurance. It endured the springtime. It endured the summertime. It endured the wintertime. So by the time the wintertime came, this plant gave so much endurance that it was so deeply rooted in this soil, it couldn't die. So that's the same way that we are when we are planted, when we are rooted and planted in things of Yahuwah and Yahusha. We may have those seasons that we may not be fruitful. It may not seem like we're bearing fruit. It may not seem like we're doing anything. Our life may feel as if it's at a standstill. But remember that we are planted and deeply rooted in Yahuwah and in Yahusha. And it doesn't always have to feel like it. But as scripture says, you will know a tree by its fruit. And I'm just going to go further into this study because a few years ago, I found out that bell peppers isn't a vegetable, it's a fruit. And that's what I grew up believing. I grew up believing that bell peppers were vegetables, but they aren't vegetables, they're fruits. So I'm going to give you a definition of a fruit. A fruit is the mature seed-bearing structure that develops from the ovary of a flowering plant. Beyond the sweet edible treats we eat, it broadly refers to a profitable outcome of one's actions and carries specific metamorphical meaning and beliefs. So the botanical meaning is scientifically, a fruit is the seed containing vessel of a plant. This definition is more broader than the foods we typically call fruits. It encompasses true fruits. So true fruits are apples, berries, peaches, and melons. Botanical fruits, commonly called vegetables, tomatoes, cucumbers, pumpkins, bean pods, and nuts. So botanical fruits are commonly called vegetables, but they're not vegetables, they're fruits. So the things that we've been calling vegetables are really fruits. So tomatoes, cucumbers, pumpkins, bean pods, and nuts are fruits. I'm sorry. Tomatoes, cucumbers, pumpkins, bean pods, and nuts are fruits. And also apples, berries, peaches, and melons are true fruits. So within the biblical meaning, the figurative meaning, in general English, fruit often means the pleasant or successful result, outcome, or reward of work or effort, the fruits of your labor. So when we go throughout life and we're wondering if we are fruitful or not, we have to be able to look back and realize that our labor is not going in vain and that the seeds that we have sown, if Yahuwah is willing, will spring up and root and bear fruit. So these bell peppers are not vegetables, they're fruits. And as this plant is bearing fruit, so as we are being attached to the true vine, as scripture says, Yahusha is the true vine and Yahuwah is the husbandman. So Yahusha is the true vine and we're connected to him. So because we are connected to Yahusha, we should be bearing fruit. And if not, we're good for nothing and we'll be plucked up and cast into the fire. So I'm just so very grateful that my bell pepper plant survived last spring, summer, and the winter time. And Yahuwah willing, it'll survive another year and it'll make 2 years. But this plant is gonna get tall. And another thing that I wanted to add, another fun fact, as my children will call it, bell peppers are botanically classified as fruits because they develop from the flower of a plant and contain seeds. They meet the scientific definition of fruit. And another word for it is called a cap, a capsicum. Is a genus of flowering plants in the nightshade family, native to the Americas, cultivated worldwide for their edible fruit, which are generally known as peppers. Capsium also has chili peppers, and they grow on 5 species of capsicum. And another thing is a fruit, a vegetable, I'm sorry, y'all, a bell pepper in its green state is not completely ripened. That's another thing that I learned recently. A bell pepper in its green state is not completely ripened. So in the stores, when we go in the stores and we see green bell peppers, we are seeing unripened bell peppers, and they take them off the vine to be able to sell them in stores. So this is not a ripened bell pepper here. This bell pepper needs to either turn yellow, orange, or red. And when it's yellow, orange, or red, it is at its full sweetness. And I've learned recently, I'm going through my papers, so give me 1 minute. I'm trying to see how long does it take because I want to test this out. I have harvested my bell peppers early in its unripened state. However, I want to see how far and how long it'll take for this bell pepper to turn to its ripened state, to its state of maturity. So it takes 2 to 3 weeks for a green bell pepper to begin changing color. Once it reaches its full size, the full transition to a mature final color, such as red, yellow, or orange, can take up to 3 to 4 weeks and sometimes longer, depending on the weather. So, Yahuwah willing, I'll be waiting patiently for my bell peppers to turn to its full state. But going back to marketing, when you see these green bell peppers in store, know that it's not at its ripened state. So you can eat it at its unripened state, but it's not going to be sweet. It's still good, but hey, why not eat it at its full maturity? So why not pick it at its full maturity? So I'm going to patiently wait for my fruits to turn to its ripened state and to reach its full maturity so that I can taste the sweetness and the crispness of my bell pepper. So last year I didn't do that. I didn't know that if I kept it on longer because they did grow really big, and I'm just grateful too because last year I had such a bountiful harvest, and I know this year I will have another bountiful harvest. So yeah, my family, let's continue to abide in Yahusha so that we can bear fruit and do something. Because without him, without the true vine, without the true vine connected to the branches, we're nothing. So if we're not connected in Yahusha, we are nothing. And that's something that we need to keep in mind because truly, he is the source for us to get to the Most High Yahuwah. So we have to constantly be willing to abide in Yahusha to get to Yahuwah. That's the way the Father has this set up, and there's no other way to go around it. So praise be to Yahuwah. I pray that this video was edifying and encouraging to someone. Let's continue to abide so that we could bear fruit. This is not always easy because of the distractions that we have, but once we eliminate distractions, we will be able to do this a lot more frequently and consistently. So praise be to the Most High. I will be keeping y'all updated on my bell pepper planting success, and I hope that this video was encouraging to someone. Peace and blessings.